Hi, my name is Leah Day, and welcome to this video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. Today we're stitching our last design in a disappearing 9-patch block. It's stippling and echoes. So let's see how Josh does with this design. So you've knocked out a good bit of this, and you are definitely using those straight lines in the center of the block.
Yes, and I went along and I ditched most of the exterior perimeter as I found that to be really helpful with the stippling area. But the circles here, I've kind of didn't really have much of a plan.
Really?
Yeah.
Just kind of knocked it out kind of as you went.
And it's worked, but there has been a lot of travel stitching.
Okay.
But so, I mean, you could probably, like, you can see what I missed the one above me right here. I'm going to go back and do that.
The stitching in the ditch, you mean? The straight lines?
No, the, right here.
Oh,
this.
Oh, the little...
Yeah.
Yeah, that little quarter circle.
Line there.
Not too bad. I did this very differently. Viewers might recall I did not stitch those straight lines into the center, instead I broke thread twice. So I hope this is a really nice way of seeing there's definitely more than one way of quilting this block. Josh just, kind of got started and didn't necessarily have as much of a game plan as I did going into it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. I think that you kind of have to just go with what you're feeling, and sometimes we just want to kind of shut up and quilt and not really plan things out, spend a lot of time sketching or drawing or figuring out where we're going to go, and that's just fine.
And remember, Leah always says travel stitching is not a bad thing. It's not the end of the world if you have to travel stitch over something 3 times, sometimes even 4 times.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing so long as your thread can take it. So long as your thread can take it and you don't break thread as you travel stitch so many times over an area, it's not a big deal. It's really not. Got some lint there.
Yep, just knocking it off the wall.
What do you think of these echoes? How big they are?
The scale, or just how big they are across the entire block?
How big they are across the entire block.
Oh, I like them. I think they're. I think it's going to look really nice on the finished quilt. One thing here, I wish I'd ditched this whole way instead of. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now because it's kind of.
It's annoying you.
There we go. Yes.
Good
So I'm going to ditch down here too.
Oh, good, good, good.
But no, I really like it. I like how the echoing circles are broken up by the lines and then the stippling in the border. I think it looks really nice.
Okay, good. And you haven't had any kind of issues or struggles with stitching those echoes as big as they can get?
None. None. My only issue is with the stippling.
Okay, so the stippling's really dense. We'll get to that in just a second.
Yeah, the scale, I'd prefer a larger scale.
But there's a really narrow area there, so would you have picked just a different design to go in that area?
If it was up to me, I would have had the stippling closer to the center.
Just closer to the
Yes.
center, and maybe the echoes out into that rectangular area.
Yes.
Okay. Food for thought. It's really interesting to find just what works and what doesn't. And when I look at it, I see a little narrow area. I'm like, oh, I'll just fill that little narrow area up with stippling. That's what I naturally do. But that might be more, just simply coming from how many years I've been quilting and kind of what I like to see. It's really interesting to see your perspective on it and see that.
Now we're going to begin our stippling.
Yeah, so here we go. And you're going to try and stay on those lines?
I'm going to try as hard as I can to stay on the lines, and this is my best angle to go with, so let's see what happens. I'm going to try to get my speed slower. There we go. I like that speed.
That just comes from a little less pressure
Yep.
on your foot pedal.
And as you can see, it's just the slightest adjustment can knock you off.
Well,
because the speed increased, so I adjusted my speed of my hand. I made my hands go faster.
And you could stand to move your hands just a little bit faster than what you are now. But you notice how your machine automatically increased too?
That was due to my foot.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, as soon as I said move your hands faster, you pressed your foot down a little harder. It's very hard to get these two things to cooperate, where one does one thing and one does the other.
It is. It's like the old adage of patting your head and rubbing your belly.
That's exactly right.
It's tough.
Yeah, but this is looking terrific. You're really staying on the line.
Well, I have two things that are working in my favor here. This is a very good speed for me, and I really like this angle. Though now I'm gonna have to change it because now we're opening up here.
Mm-hmm.
So remove the pin more. Okay.
Whatever feels most comfortable for you. If it takes a little rotation, that's fine. That looks great. In this section of block, I actually freehand quilted the stippling so I could flow through the block kind of as I wanted to, how I needed to move around, you know, more or less for my, to make things easier for myself. So it's one of those things where having the marked lines can definitely be an asset, but you can also freehand quilt this. There's always more than one way of quilting any area. So if you're looking at this going, gosh, I don't want to bother marking all of those lines, just remember that freehand quilting is definitely open to you.
And if you don't like stippling, feel free to mix it up. You know, you can do some cat hair ball filler in here. Let's see, some wiggly U-shapes.
Loopy line. There's a lot of different designs.
Stuff.
Yeah, lots of different designs you could do there. So that's it for this video. You stitched a lot of stippling. And
I did.
Yeah, it was all pretty much on the line. That was excellent. So you like that scale a little better now?
I do. The last one you just saw me finishing out. I think that's been my best stippling I've done yet. So I'm proud of it.
Yeah, and that's on a 1/4 inch scale. It's pretty dense, pretty tight, but we have a narrow space to fill, so that's kind of the reason it's that dense and that tight. It's also giving you a lot of bang for your buck when it comes to the number of repetitions you're getting. You're getting a lot of repetitions in a small amount of space, which means you take that and go to another quilt, stippling's going to be that much easier for you. So I think it's a really good skill to work on a smaller scale. That's why I kind of stick it in these blocks here and there, so that way you get a nice taste of it as often as I can put it in there. So my name is Leah Day, and this has been a video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. You can join us by piecing and free machine quilting all of your blocks by purchasing a copy of the Building Blocks Quilt Pattern. This pattern is available at leahday.com. You can also follow along by purchasing the Spoonflower cheater cloth fabric. That's what Josh is using, and that is very easy to use because all you have to do is buy the fabric, cut it up, baste it, you're ready to quilt. You don't have to worry about cutting or piecing your blocks. You can find that cheater cloth fabric at spoonflower.com. So until next time,
Let's go quilt.